Chuck, chuck, chuck. Hey, so is this delay? Oh, is this delay? Hopefully this is an okay volume. Um, in my continuing this installment to emote vulnerability at odd hours of the night, completely randomly, and mining those wild hairs for silly excursions into bullshit thought processes. Welcome to another installment of EX-HEX VEX. I know, it's way too kitschy. I'll probably change the title later. Um, I don't even know if this is a series yet. I hit 230. About as much planning as I did for this is, if I'm going to do another one of these, I need to be of the ilk that sleep is far away. It's far away from me. And what better time to do it than 2:30, 23, skidoo. Um, it's Friday night. I'm sure people have lives, even in quarantine, or, they're resolving to battle the day through the dream. So I will not expect anyone tuning in because this has got to be super annoying. I'm very impressed that people have in the last couple just to hear me goofy gab about whatever. I thought that I would take this liminal stream, this session, to discuss ritual. I try not to come in with a loaded, outline or loaded theme. I'm also going to really try hard not to say after every fucking thing. But there was something that occurred to me when I was deciding to do this. And, as a creature of crooked habit, as a creature that has been habitual in maybe harrowing things or self-immolating things, I think ritual is a focus I must rectify, I must configure. Doing this last night and then a couple days ago around the same time, this in and of itself is finding a ritual, but I'm very observant to my mental stasis at this juncture. I'm very aware that I'm in a sort of mania. I've been in one for past week or so, and there's this harrowing necessity to spill, to commune, to interact, and of course, by the time I lose the battle of meditating or measuring my worth of the day, it's way too late. Everyone's gone, everyone's asleep, and there's not much to commune with. So here we are in the blue light vortex, speaking into the void. And I've been really, I don't know, I've been really, I hate to use the word meditative repeatedly, but I've been really considering what my ritual habits are, whether it's creatively or, in the health sphere or, um, you know, uh, the day-to-day, even, magical praxis, spiritual praxis, knowledge, uh, attuning and gaining. And I find that I incessantly am arrhythmic, or I am a BBC version of a comedy show that's got 2 seasons and done, and not the American adaptation where it takes 13 to find out that, it's time to move on. So it's a strange predicament to be, especially someone that is, incessantly practicing, a multitude of different creative things or working on projects and stuff. I feel like my ritual has been very project based, even when it comes to the declaration of health, of stasis. And I'm very at odds right now, very at odds as to refining any sort of ritual. Because when I was a kid, I had this incessant thing I used to say to me that I'm afraid of these S words. I'm afraid of safety, stability, stagnation. These are my biggest fears. And I think I've ingrained in myself that there's this surrender. There's another S word. There's this surrender to the placid, to the mundane, to the ho hum and the humbug of a continual stasis, with a multitude of different machinations within it. And I'm very much one of those personalities that gives it all real hard for, a very distinct time, and tends to something else extremely hard for a very distinct time, skips to another thing very hard for a very distinct time, circles back, and then hops around. And I'm coming to an impasse, even as a magical practitioner, as an artist, as any of these more, metaphysical and very like the oeuvre of who I think a person is, these consistencies and these ideas that you always want to tend to, you always want to experiment with, you want to evolve with, sometimes you want to devolve with, sometimes you want to destruct, reconstruct. But I've gotten into this Dharma bum stasis where I am burning red hot passionate until I burn it down, get sick of it, and then, I'll tend to another thing that I'm burning red hot passionate about. And it comes down even to the fine aspects of sleep, of diet, of, you know, uh, I'll be vulnerable here, sometimes hygiene. Get used to shower a bit more, but I'm always arrested to a incessant, like a slavery to just what my red hot, ambition is at the time. I'm a fucking crooked criminal of heart direction. And I don't know if I'm not a huge zodiac or, astrology person, but it's funny that given, I'm considered a Pisces, but my rising sign is the complete opposite. And I think that's just a funny reminder of just even into the smallest reminders of what I'm consistently dealing with is this contradiction. And that's why, it's very understandable that I would, be bipolar or considered bipolar or mercurial, joyful, but grumpy. And, those are just the lesser of the extremes. But I'm a very extreme oriented person. And it's tuckering me the fuck out. I am so tired of just chasing women whimsy and fighting for, no longer than I can see in front of me. Like fighting for, you know, what is comprehensive to my eyesight as it is, and it's terrible. So but I'm also, you know, struggling with this idea that I have an inherent, and this sounds pretentious, but I mean, I mean this in the very almost literal way, a rebellious nature to conforming, to being placid in a consistent rhythm. And I'm dying to learn how. I'm absolutely at my wit's end about refining, configuring a way to schedule chaos, you know. Um, oh, hey, Una, how are you? Look, do you prefer privacy? I mean, no, yes, I do. A lot of times, and a lot of times I don't. But there are extremes of this. I mean, here I am, and I think in a manic episode where I, you know, I'm fighting these tundras of thoughts and feelings, and I'm using a live stream kind of platform to converse and commune, because yeah, I'm at a loss for rectifying who to contact, who to chat with, who's, you know, up. My rhythm is just so fucking arrhythmic to everyone. Una says, personally, I endeavor to shift my daily morning routine and waking closer to 7 a.m. Since quarantine, napping tends to be the most accessible resource for me. I agree. Big fan of the nap. Um, do other humans exist out there in this world? Or is everything a massive reflection of one's own inner storms? I do believe that there is a mirror reflection. There's like a bounce back, a reverberation of, you know, who you are when you're dealing with yourself alone in these certain times. But it's really the music that makes when you bounce against other people's trajectories and their own reverberations, and it just becomes this hollow, huge hall, you know, the Phil Spector wall of sound of a cacophonous, you know, symphony of people's wants and desires by redirecting and, you know, I don't know, redirecting and detouring their actual wants and desires, you know. And I think that's the impasse. Is I want to configure myself ritualistically. It doesn't have to be in this algorithmic, you know, seance of the self every day, this hard-nosed, scheduled, um, you know, pressing atypical or you know, A-type personality, kind of extremely structured, rigid, you know, kind of system. Although a lot of me yearns for that a lot of times, and I do implement that in certain projects or whatever, but I am just at a loss for finding a biorhythm, a sound maneuverability through my extremes. And you know, everyone, this pisses me off, you know. Everyone, you talk about these things, everyone's like, well, you know, just get a good night's sleep, or, you know, eat well, or you know, oh, don't worry, or, you know, don't be so worried about it, just, you know, just do it, think about it. There's this mechanism right before you're allowed to consider that maybe I shouldn't worry, that skips, that you know, circumvents the idea that there was this chugging train that I could hop on and just move to the next thing. It's like incessantly keeping the hitchhiker thumb up a lot of times about keeping it still in a way. But that's the conundrum. I am not someone that thrives off stillness. I'm not someone that, that really harmonizes with just, common chords. There's a dissonance to me that I really thrive off of. And it's just about kind of, and this is the contradictory idea. It's like it's about coordinating this dissonance. And I've done it in ways where instead of being rigid in scheduling, I've been able to amass a certain, like a plethora of things during the day to tend to and do. It's not at certain times, or, it leaves me a little room to maneuver, through the sinew of the day. And it's turning into there's just this like defunct kind of, you know, malleable existence for doing this for so long. And this gets me thinking so much about, the kind of rigid praxis of a lot of occult currents and magical currents and spiritual praxis. And there's something in me that really thrives off being antithetical or divergent from that. But I'll be the first to admit, uh, you need the balance, but finding the the seesaw, you know, before you could even consider the weight of each seat is kind of where I'm stuck with that. And I think that's very much a analogous to where I am in a lot of things in life. When you live seasonally, or you live by artistic project, or as a freelancer for many years, like you live by kind of the skin of your own motivation. It works for some and it's beautiful, um, but for me, it allows too much of a meandering or a wander from a healthy path. And here I am. I'm drinking beer again. I'm drinking again. I took time off, but you know, I get so incensed and do well, and it just kind of regurgitates, or it finds its way to maneuver back. And I think the thing is, and this is my thesis, is that it's this incessant need for some sign, or for some, you know, flick of the brain by the absolute, by the other, or, some huge synchronous, fucking event to kind of put someone on a path to move forward. I mean, you hear this time and time again. It's like archetypal of, the quote unquote hero's journey, that there's a motivating event that really sets them off. And I think just my ability to retain these synchronous and really motivating events is, um, like an attention deficit. Like, it's weird. I always kind of fall back into this default setting that is absolutely chaotic. It's absolutely irregular and arrhythmic. No matter how hard I try to rectify the the rhythms and the hums and the heartbeat of a good and, you know uh, solidifying trajectory, an evolution of sorts. It's like I won't allow myself just to find a trajectory. It's like I have to tend to 18 at all times. And it's not even intentional. It's not. Um, and I think, this is just me expressing kind of a sobering, I mean, no pun intended, but a sobering reminder that no matter the opportunities and the wealth of good and things to remind you to tend to maintain, there's a default setting that incessantly wants me to diverge from it or to tempt it to make it crooked. And this has got me, you know, fever dreaming about the the stasis of like an artistic expression as it is with just the synapses you're allowed or is configured in your brain. And in and of itself, it becomes a ritual, which is hilarious, you know. In and of itself, it becomes nomenclature to be divergent. And it's this oxymoronic kind of state of being where you're slowly evolving in 8 different ways that'll take you 8 times longer to kind of move to the next level rather than sharpening a focus or refining or or ritualistically figuring out the day, you know, treating an entire waking day as a ritual. I mean, because I don't need to tell anyone that I'm not, you know, being elusive about, you know, the knowledge that everyone knows that, you know, a ritual is as small as, you know, brushing your teeth every morning. But what if, now hear me out, what if you could sigilize certain days, or you could refine a ritual, uh, not maybe not daily, but configure certain rituals to rotate and to transfix. And within these rituals, as you would like anoint an altar or give an offering, you know, you interchange it with, you know, a creative project. Um, you know, or the creative project can be the deity or the, you know, the other that you're servicing in like an occult ick, occult nick, you know, kind of understanding of it. And it's something I really want to try. And it's something about drafting kind of the usual and mundane as it would be to, you know, like it does, you know, brushing your teeth could be the lighter you need to light the candle on the altar. It's like these little elements that you need, obviously, to get through a ritual. So what if we could equate, or what if I could equate those things as kind of uh, an ever kind of revolving sum of rituals, you know, 3 or 4, I don't know. This is just a fleeting idea. But what if you could look at each day with the purpose of a ritual in that sense of communing with the other, which is appeasing, you know, the whole of the self, which is appeasing the maintenance needed to transcend, you know, dirty habits or dirty wanton, you know, wanton lofty, you know, shit that without kind of eschewing a, you know, an actual ritual, that you would actually engulf the entirety of a day as you would a long and, you know, uh, I'm meandering, but I think you understand what I'm saying. To schedule, to treat the machinations, the minutia of giving, you know, a a purposeful theme, with a purposeful other or personality of another, you know, say, the Mondays would, be my proclamation to Santissima Muerte, but instead of, finding the color coordinated candles, it would be, finding the times to take for myself to read or journal, and without it being Santissimo Muerte, maybe it's an artistic project that need tending to, or the manifestation that you draft, or the declaration that you would use in the ritual would be something maybe you put on paper in the morning, as far as like what your intention or to-do list for the day would be. Um, this is probably so juvenile, and I'm sure millions of people have thought of this. And like I said, it goes without saying that the entire day for any kind of waking person is a ritual in and of itself. But I almost mean to specifically, sublimate the reverence, the creativity, the hallowed part of what constitutes a spiritual practice, but utilizing it in a way to form a day. Um, the like a certain kind of incense could be a dietary um, focus, or there's a million avenues to go with it, and this would obviously be very intense and thorough exploration of the self, and it's funny too, because you start thinking about it that way and you realize, the planetary magic of these rituals. Mondays aren't good for working on music, or you know what I mean? Like it could be interchangeable, but as long as that you find that way to coordinate your health, your practice, your creativity, your focus on the future, your tending, your maintenance, and you treat it with a metaphysical lift like that. But it's not so flighty, it's not so new agey. I'm not talking about vision boards, I'm talking about actually, like true sublimation of a deep and fervent ceremony. Um, but you equate the minutia to the minutia of the day, or you equate the big ideas to the creativity or the focus of the day. Anyways, I'm going to talk to Una for being here. Una, I know we're all alone. I really appreciate you being here. Let's see, mandalas, perhaps akin to creating mandalas and then destroying the final product. Yeah, so I've noticed this in my last stream. I should read the comment. So if people are listening, Una Song says mandalas, perhaps akin to creating mandalas and then destroying the final product upon completion. Absolutely. This is what I was meaning about the Dharma Bum comment, about this incessant need to kind of deconstruct or devolve things as a way to ingest them, as a way to deal with the ghosts of them, or the memories of them. It's a lot easier to eat ash than it is, you know, the uh, the body. I was gonna come up with some joke about it. Then I was like, yeah, it's getting murdery. I should probably move on. Sunlight when I walk outdoors more during morning daylight hours, my circadian rhythm becomes more aligned with regular evening nighttime sleeping schedules. Yeah, absolutely. Th- I have a problem with this idea of like regular um, evening and nighttime sleeping schedules, which, as a matter of fact, I'm not allowed to have a problem with this because my days recently are very much in tune with the idea of a 9 to 5, or, I'm not allowed to be fervent like this too often late at night on weekdays, even though I really feel that this is the air, the atmosphere that really aids and abets, my creative stuff. But I digress. I don't really drink alcohol or consume nicotine, right, which may or may not inhibit REM cycles. Absolutely. Um, and I think it's very obvious to me that smoking and drinking, um, poor diet, all of this is part and parcel to my maybe my troubles with finding rhythms and stuff. But there's this Lincoln log that's missing from the cabin of self, and that Lincoln log is the space between um, motivation or needed motivation, right? Or it's the space between um, kind of churning myself into a person that needs to that rectifies this by understanding deeply and coherently these things, because there's so many small moving parts with that. I'll be the first to say I can be a very weak person when it comes to uh, declarations of health. Um, my weight fluctuates insanely. You know, my eating habits can be nothing to, quite a bit. There's no rhyme or reason, honestly, that I tend to my body in the dietary ways. Um, I get a good amount of exercise, but not, you know, truly to tune something or focus about that. So it's just this, like I said, it's this Lincoln log in the cabin of health of the self that I'm missing to, connect the top of the doorway. You know what I mean? To figure the threshold to move forward through. Um, Even though I'm objectively sometimes very aware how necessary these things are to rectify. Yeah, but here's the issue. I don't know if it's mental health. I don't know if it's I'm sure it's mental health, but it's a lot of nature and nurture of my beingness that has a really hard time constituting a regimen of diet and good sleep. you know and yeah, I would love to figure out how to breach that threshold and focus and work on that instead of not pay it mind and be, kind of uncaring and despondent about it a lot of the time because I'm so focused on other things, or, I need to figure out how to motivate my care more for it. I think this is a good place to begin that process, but that's what's missing, is that I need to consider it an art project that, I'm passionate and obsessive about, instead of just to sustain myself in between actual art projects. Una also says, I moved into a different flat 5 years ago, and I'm only this week slowly unpacking so far into quarantine. I have a massive stock of books and time to read. That's beautiful. Um, yeah, I forget, Una, you're in California. Your quarantine was far more impactful than mine. Mine, albeit short, I used it for focusing more on creative things and just kind of distracting or entertaining myself in between those things. And yeah, there was books and stuff, but mainly it was just is, stress management. Um, that landlocked feeling really haunts me, and I hate it. And I just, I don't deal with being buried alive very well. It's actually my worst fear. And I mean that in an analogous sense to of being quarantined and landlocked. Um, Una says it occurs to me that preventing slash limiting regret is my motivator this year. I will regret not reading those books. Subsequently, I read a few chapters and unpacked a few boxes. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like, yeah, a reconditioning of, yeah, I've called it, it's regrunts is this term I've called it. And it's a regrunt is you're always in the middle of something when you realize you should have, finished or done the thing prior to doing that something and you let out an audible, ugh. It's a regrunt. And it's that eliminate future regret. I believe that is a beautiful focus, and it's very succinct. Eliminate future regret. And future regret would be, not doing these things to, you know, fortify the future that I'm in right now, Um, appreciate you and your words and presence. Thank you, Uno. You've been such a joy and a treasure. I appreciate you giving me the time of day and being a part of these experiments, these live stream experiments in X-hexing and vexing. Una says, not my beloved or myself. A few intense medical legal situations have impacted my life this summer. Subsequently, I realize how lucky I am being with folks that have humor and focus. Yeah, yeah. Um, and humility, to me, that's the only shit I care about. I have a hard time paying attention to a plethora of things that maybe I should be or I don't know, feel obligated to. And I think it's always a lack of humility. It's that's the one red flag. That's the one caution tape for me, especially with personalities and people I surround myself with. To me, it's like such a cornerstone to my, spiritual practice is this alarming, disarming of the self, but it's not in the, new agey kind of ego death way. It's very much in this um, need to check the 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 fervent fire of absurd confidence or tranquil complacency. I think a lot of people in the metaphysical community and fucking a lot of artists, you know, exhume. And yeah, yeah, I'm just not interested. I want to see bare bones. I want to see muscle. You know, hell, I'll take a liver or a kidney, especially, but I don't want to see armor so much anymore. I'm done with armor um, for the time being. Maybe as I build my own, but that's just where I'm at right now. Um, anyways, wow, 40 minutes of just complete rambling. I appreciate you, Una. Thank you so much for stopping by. In summation, and I guess this will be the title of this X-Hex and Vex. It's it's constructing a ritual as you would in the microcosm of a magical praxis, but constructing the day in the macrocosm of an occult practice or a metaphysical practice. And I think there's something there about you know uh, being as mundane as you needing a lighter to light a candle, so that's your brushing your teeth in the morning. You blow out the candle, that's you brushing your teeth at night. And as big as, you know, choosing which deity or other to commune with, being, you know, the focus of the day, the creative project, the tending and the maintaining of the future. Um, I mean, it sounds insane. It sounds absolutely like um, frivolous. It sounds like it absolutely just, if I really, I'm the type of person that, of course, comes up with something like that just to tend to maintain or, like, you know, kind of sully my extreme contradictory nature. But, you know, I'm gonna attempt it. Maybe I'll draft something and post it as far as like a more thorough examination of what I'm talking about. I hope that I related or related, um, you know, succinctly enough. I know succinct and me are not friends. That might be another S word. Uh, but I hope that it comes across my this idea anyways. And obviously this is just for me. Um, but thank you for holding me accountable. And, you know, if you're watching this in the future, like, especially if you've gotten this far, like, yeah, I appreciate it. This is very selfish of me, but also it's very therapeutic. And we'll keep trying this. We'll keep you know, we'll keep goofy gabbing. Anyways, I love you all, every single dirty fucking one of you. And you know, as we say, haunt on.